Hello and welcome to Mondo Street Presents. Tonight we are doing the DNA of, well, it's more of a question really. Um, is nostalgia a good enough reason to greenlight a film? Good evening, Daniel.
Good evening, Philip. I always lean in
Oh,
on
we're
the
doing it.
first.
We're doing it again. We're doing it again. We do it every time we start. First couple of minutes. Um, could you please ignore all microphone protocol as we start the podcast and then lean further and further away as we get on? So question then. Are you well?
I'm well. How are you? I'm doing it again.
Well, that's why I have my microphone quite close to me, so you can't see me doing it, but I'm still doing it.
Oh, just
Chumley
spilt.
Warner.
I just spilt my water. Oh,
Uh,
this is off to a good start. How are you doing, Philip?
I'm all right, thank you. Oh, Sunday name as well, thanks. Right, so nostalgia, sequels. We've already discussed ad infinitum. I'm sure we'll talk about it again about the fact that Hollywood seems to have this complete void of new material, and it keeps banging at the door of old IP with remakes and rehashes. And my favorite phrase at the moment, reimagining.
Yeah.
Um, reimagining, which is just regurgitation. Um, but there's an awful lot of sequels. The last 10 years seems to have had sequelitis, and we've just both watched Beetlejuice,
Mm.
and that got the juices flowing. Not the juices flowing, the Beetlejuice is flowing. For was it a project that needed to be made? Is the market there for it, or was it a nostalgia trip? So you watched it before me, so fire away.
I was left for about the first 20 minutes to half an hour. I started to think, why is this happening?
Yeah.
What's going on? Oh, look, we've got all the original cast back and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, -1.
-1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
We'll ignore him.
Yep.
Um, but then I started to think, well, okay, it was a weird pace. The whole film itself was a weird pace, but we're
Mm.
not going to go into, critique of the film. But for me, it then descended into a slight carbon copy
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the original.
Yeah.
Um, Even to the point with the song in the church at the end. I mean, are they
Mm.
trying to find their new song from the first one?
Well, I'm just going to digress for a second, but I think this is a train of thought we need to follow through as we discuss him. I think that is the kit for a sequel, for a nostalgia sequel. Yeah.
Mm.
So not necessarily um Mad Max to Furiosa, which are,
Mm.
well, now that's a prequel. Let's pick a different example, shall we? But where it's a definite sequel, but a nostalgia sequel is one where there's a massive amount of time between them. And I think that they all do that. They all carbon copy the structure of the first one to make you feel warm and cuddly to justify another one.
Yeah, well, to that point, you look at Star Wars Episode 7. That was basically a carbon copy of
Which one's
Episode
that?
4, the first one where they all came back. So again, you've got that long period where nothing was made.
Yeah.
I'm doing them in order. I'm doing them in
All
order,
right.
not
So you've got
four,
the
five, six.
really 4, 5, 6, 7. Was that where Ewan McGregor was Obi-Wan Kenobi?
No, that's it. I'm doing them in order. So episode one,
That's
two, and three were Phantom Menace.
right.
Those
So this
three.
is where you get back to
Yeah,
Daisy Ridley and
the
John
first one,
Boyega.
and
Right.
Harrison Ford and
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher. The whole cast, the
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
etc. That was a carbon copy because that was
Mm.
that was a fan panda.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. A
that's
fan
not
panda.
that's not someone that really likes pandas.
It's a fairy. It's a fairy going, Harrison Ford, have some bamboo shoots with me.
Fan panda. Why did I call
Fan
it that?
panda. I love that.
Um, but again, it's that nostalgia hit, and then in episode 8, it went onto its own path.
Which goes to my argument then that the long gap sequel, what should we
Yep.
call them? A geekwell, because there's a big gap.
Hmm.
Um, carbon copies and then creates the new, or attempts to create a new audience for the third or the fourth or the seventh or whatever the next one would naturally be.
Which, to go back to Beetlejuice, you can see that's a setup for a third
Dear
because you
God, don't let them do it.
because you've introduced new characters, and I reckon it'll go off on a slight tangent. But you've got Tim Burton has this typical habit of using people that in his universe time and time again. Looking at you, Johnny Depp, and he has his fetishes, shall we say? So, looking at you, Monica Bellucci.
Yeah.
Um, but Wednesday, basically,
Mm,
he's brought
mm,
in
yeah.
because that's to go to the youth market
Mm,
who he can then get into the cinema on the back of Wednesday, and you've got
yeah.
that youth story. Whereas for the adults, you've got
Yeah.
the Beetlejuice nostalgia.
Mm,
But I also think a common issue of why they do this is because people of our age, Phil, we're the ones with the money, and we're the ones that used to go to the cinema to watch these films, so we'll
yeah.
go again. Whereas
Yeah.
the youth market
Yeah.
will wait for it to come to Netflix,
Yeah.
or will watch it at home in home cinema or in other
Well,
ways.
that was another question I was gonna tag on. Is nostalgia a good enough reason to greenlight a film? And are streamers to blame? Because we know that the whole structure of Hollywood and the production of movies and the release schedule of movies has changed because of streaming beyond all
Mm-hmm.
recognition. I think it's Alien Romulus is out in a couple of weeks on
Mm,
digital. It's only been in the cinemas for what, 4 or 5 weeks. Now I'm not complaining as a fan,
mm.
yeah, but it's the whole thing has changed because of streaming. We had the pandemic, we had streaming, and everything's changed. Let's not bash Tim Burton too much. Let's reserve that for his own episode because he's going to get one after Beetlejuice. Um, I'm not going to talk about that anymore because I've got so many things to say about it. I just don't. For me, that's one of the offenders. It was a film that came along, carbon copied, left a big enough gap in the door at the end for another one.
Mm.
But that, for me, dishonors the original.
I completely agree. I think it's diminished the value of the first.
Yeah,
And I found myself sitting in the cinema, just sort of a little chuckle, going, "Oh, yes, I remember that from the first one."
yeah,
Right, I remember that from the first one. Oh, we're going to go through that whole scene again. Okay, we're going to do it this way. Right,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
and right, okay, got it.
yeah. And it must cost what, 10 times the original, if not
yeah.
more. So no. So let's look then at where nostalgia produces a good film, because it's not all negative. It's not all bad. Sorry. So if you look at the gap between Top Gun
Mhm.
and Top Gun Maverick, which was 36 years, but Top Gun Maverick is better than Top Gun. Now that might be certain levels of, um, technology has allowed them to do
Yeah,
better things in a film, but it still suffers from exactly the same thing. Carbon copy. Yeah.
because there'll be a third one.
Oh, they've already said there is.
Oh, there
And
we go.
yeah. So whilst you've got this, you've got the equal, the big gap. Yeah. Sometimes you do get a better film than the first one. So
Mm,
we are ignoring natural sequels like Godfather 1, Godfather 2, because they progressed within, a
mm.
reasonable amount of time. So I was thinking to myself, what is the longest gap between a commercially successful film?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What have you brought up in your little trawl, Phil?
Well, Bambi. Yeah, 1942. I didn't even know this film existed. Bambi 2.
This time it's personal.
This time I've got the bow and arrow.
This is for my mother.
Yeah. Oh God. 2006. 64 years between them. Now,
That was a straight to VHS DVD release though.
it must have been. Okay, so
Hmm.
let's talk about films where they are big commercial theatrical hits, whether you like them or not. Mary Poppins, 1964, the year I was born. And Mary Poppins Returns, 2018. 54 years between them. Now, there's no way you're going to say that's a natural sequel. It was a friggin' remake.
Oh, it was a complete remake. Yeah, it was a remake with some modern twists.
Yeah.
So some interesting bits like when she goes through the bath, etc.
Yeah.
It was a lesser film, but again, it's a reboot to give it to a younger audience that can
Yeah.
then go ahead.
Mm.
And Disney are the worst for this. Now, I'm a real bit of I have a soft spot for Cheaper by the Dozen and Cheaper by the Dozen 2, which I think is the better one. But then they came and remade Cheaper by the Dozen
Yeah.
with Zach Braff in
Yeah.
a very diverse family unit, shall we say, on every front, from divorced parents, etc. It's for a modern audience. But again, that's sort of is it a reboot or is it just a
Well, Disney have got a
remake?
habit of, if you look at, I can't think of one off the top of my head that this hasn't happened to. So chime in if you know one. But they've taken all of their classic animations and turned them into live action films now. Now that is flogging IP, that is. Plus the myriad of straight to video, DVD, streaming, cast offs like, Little Mermaid 8. It was only Thrush, things like that. But that's the kind of thing Disney does, isn't it? They make a live action remake and then they go back, oh, we'll go and do Little Mermaid 2 animated film now. You know. Um, The Shining, 1980, and Doctor Sleep, 39 years. Now, I can sit and watch Doctor Sleep more, as in more often, than I can sit and watch The Shining.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But that I wouldn't say that was a sort of sequel reboot because the book was there.
Yeah,
But there's a gap between the books. So
yeah, yeah.
I think that's probably speaks more of the art of literature
Mm.
than it does of filmmaking.
Yeah, I think one of the offenders that definitely bears mentioning here, and it's not the longest gap on the list between them, but it's definitely the one where you've gone, why did you do that? And now you've gone and done it again, and you've made it worse. Go on.
Is it Jurassic Park?
It's not. No,
Oh,
Indiana Jones.
totally. Yep,
Yeah,
completely agree. You
The Last
messed it up
Crusade
once.
was such a good film.
It's one of my all-time favorites, The Last
It's
Crusade.
it's
It's
the perfect
genius.
ending to the characters. It's the
Yep.
perfect bookend. And then they made The Last Crusade hoping to get Shia LaBeouf to be the kickstart to the next
Yeah.
generation, which failed miserably. But didn't it start with him being in a fridge at the nuclear test
Yes.
site? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it went on. What was the last one that came out? Indiana Jones and the
Bus pass.
empty pot noodle tub or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah. That see that's that nostalgia green lighting something. And I think
Uh,
that's
the last Indiana Jones was pure nostalgia. That's all it was, and in my opinion, and this is subjective, obviously, I think it failed because it just was set action piece to set action piece to set action piece, and the narrative in between was poor.
I think it failed
It's
because it was boring. It fundamentally wasn't an Indiana Jones film because
no.
and if this is an ageist comment, I really don't care because I'm of an age where people have been ageist towards me.
Mm,
But he's too freaking old.
mm.
What is he, 80? Oh, he's older than Trump, and he's too old. I don't know. So I wish Hollywood would, I don't know, maybe have a meeting with AI or do something where they came up with something new and actually took a chance. You can look at studios like A24 where they're taking a chance with new writers
Mhm.
and coming up with some pretty good stuff. Longlegs, the one we did the other week, there's a lot of DNA from other films in there,
Mhm.
but it isn't a copy. It's not a flog of another film. But we will continue to get this nostalgia trip, or yeah, it's a money grab in nostalgia clothing.
It's not stopping though, because have you seen what's being greenlit?
Oh God, what now?
The Goonies are coming back.
No, they've said that they're not. The Josh Brolin and Martha Plimpton have come out and said it's not happening.
Ah, because there were loads of news reporting it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. That's like saying they're going to remake Jaws. That.
I just wanted to see it for the car crash that's Corey Feldman.
Well, the reason that they can't make it is exactly Corey Feldman, unless
What?
they write him out of the script. He is exactly the reason you can't make that film. If you take
I
apart the fact it's just a cash grab and blah 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 and all those things, the whole reason you can't do that film is Corey Feldman.
Yeah, I slight confession, I'm obsessed by that man.
Well, it's a
His musical career that I follow on Instagram.
it's
Wow,
yeah, it's
wow.
it's like you said before, it's rubbernecking at a car crash, and he hears that's all. It's like Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice shouldn't have happened because they couldn't have all of the original cast, and that included Jeffrey Jones. Now, there's no way you're getting that guy on the screen again. Not unless he's holding a license plate with his number on it. Um, yeah, there's there's just I just wish somebody somewhere would take a chance and try and do something different. We've got Coming to America that had a giggle,
Oh,
yeah, which I loved the first one. That's one of my guilty pleasure films. It's rubbish. It's pure trash, but it's one of my guilty pleasure films.
hmm.
Good morning, America. Hey, fuck you, pal. Hey, yeah, fuck you too. It's just a really, really good film. I couldn't watch the sequel.
No, because it's worse.
It's
It's worse
it,
than an already bad film.
it's rubbish. And we both watched Beverly Hills Cop 29. What number was
Four,
it?
four, I
4.
think. Yeah.
Christ, is that all? God. And we both said it was an okay film,
Hmm.
but it was the pure nostalgia.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I think streamers, going back to your point on streamers, I think they are the platforms that are probably guilty of doing these kind of things because they've got the budgets and the audience is there, and they
Yeah,
can see from their algorithms the audience is there that will lap this sort of thing up.
yeah.
So they're going for stuff that's for films, sorry, that then content that's obviously being binged on their platforms. They're like, okay, people really love Beverly Hills Cop.
Mm.
Right, let. I hear Eddie Murphy might be in the. Let's go and make it happen.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I can see why they do it, but the mainstream distributors then go, okay, well, that's a good idea. The problem with Netflix is you have no visibility of how profitable or not
Mm,
that nostalgia project is. And then you get people like Sony and all the other big film studios doing a nostalgia thing and losing lots and lots and lots of money to the point where you could have made, 20 long legs in a budget
mm.
capacity. Yeah. And you
Well,
think to yourself, surely we'd be better off with more than less because as consumers, we want choice.
it. I think there's another area that we could explore on this that you've watched it and I haven't because you put me completely off it, and frankly, the trailer put me off it. Is The Crow?
what,
I know it's not a sequel, but it is a
what,
nostalgia remake.
it's a nostalgia. It's in its own category. It's called a nostalgia turd. Um, the problem that you got with The Crow is that it had fairly quickly it had two sequels.
Mm.
Okay, but it's 30 years between The Crow and The Crow. And for me, the biggest issue I had with the Crow, the 2024 film, is the fact that they dared to call it The Crow,
Yeah.
because it bears they've come out now and said it's a reimagining of the source material. So they're trying to distance themselves away from the 94 film, because the backlash has been, what have you done?
Yeah.
It is a shockingly bad film. There's
And what it's lost, what is it, about 50, 60 million?
Oh, I think it'll lose more than that by the end of the day. I think, you're talking, it's up there with Madam Web
Mm.
and Rebel Moon on Netflix.
From what I've seen, it makes Madam Web look like The Godfather.
Oh no, Madam Web. What is it? The worst film of the year? It's a tough one. That it's a throw up for me between Argyle and the second part of Rebel Moon as to be the worst film of the year, and then
Mm.
third place with Madam Web. This would be fourth. There's enough in the Crow remake, because it is a remake, for you to go, oh look, they've nicked that from John Wick, or they've
Mm.
done this, or they've done that. Madam Web's just deplorable. It should be, well, it was run over in the middle of the road and just left there to bleed out, and then they went print, cut, or cut, print. Um, but yeah, so the Crow is that, it's that 30-year gap. The nostalgia's driving them to it, because it's not the source material. The source material hasn't changed.
Mm.
They just thought, oh, it's coming up to 30 years of the Crow. I think we should remake it. And one thing as well is, it was going to be a bad film when Jason Momoa, okay, who's a bit of a he's a bit of a lady of the night when it comes to what films he'll do, isn't he? He did Aquaman 2, for God's sake. He did Aquaman 1 and Aquaman 2. Um, he was originally going to be Eric Draven in the remake, and he walked
How?
away. Yeah, it took them 10 years to get this remake made. Something along the way should have said to you, stop.
Yeah.
If you can't get a film greenlit in 10 years, don't do it. Just
I was listening to a podcast the other week, and they were saying one of the questions was, why are there so many producer credits at the start of this film? And it's a Netflix production.
yeah.
And they counted into it, and it's something like 48 executive producers. And they go, the only reason they're on there is this is a big warning light, because that says
Yeah.
funding for this film kept being pulled,
Yeah.
kept going out the window. So anyone that's on there as an executive producer is on there for vanity. They have provided some budget to get this
Yeah.
film made.
And it's the
That's
same
only-
thing when you've got more than three writers, or you've got two directors, or Alan Smithy as the director. And that's a name that's been used before for directors that hate the film and have their name pulled.
Right.
Alan Smithy's a pseudonym that gets used. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think the least said about The Crow, the better. It was just truly, truly awful. Um, and then you go again, you look at Blade Runner 1982, Blade Runner 2045, 35 years between that. Now that was definitely a nostalgia trip, but boy, did that one work out well.
Good casting. And an original
Very.
helmsman. No, it wasn't, was it? Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Denis Villeneuve, I can't pronounce his
Mm.
name, sorry. Yeah, so if you go back to the original question, is nostalgia enough to greenlight a sequel? I think the answer is, how good was the original? How durable and resilient is the original? If you've played it all out, take Beetlejuice for example. You've played the entire story out of Beetlejuice. You say his name, he comes out, he does something naughty, you find a way to put him back in his box, you put him back in his box. There's nothing else that character can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've played that entire story out. So you look at that and you go, does that need another one? No. Because the only thing we can do is rinse, repeat. rinse,
Mhm.
repeat, which is exactly what they did. But Blade Runner is a classic example of going, well, have we played these characters out? Have we played this hypothesis out? And the answer was no, not by a long way.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think that's why that worked, that there was enough room left to continue a story.
I go back to my earlier point as well, is who pays to go and see these things.
Yeah.
I believe that plays a very big part on what gets greenlit.
Mm.
Are we going to get bumped on seats in a cinema?
Are they going to buy merch? Are they going
Yeah.
to? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's it. I think we're probably myself and a little bit younger, the only ones
Mm.
left. We're on the cusp of that would pay to go to a cinema and go and see it. And
Yeah.
even now, it's rare I'll go to a cinema to see something.
I can't now because audiences now don't understand cinema etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sitting in a room with 200 feral idiots most of the time, you
That's why I
know.
go to the Picture House, because they're a very nice chain of cinemas,
Yeah.
and their audience that
Yeah.
appreciate cinema.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only time I go to any other cinema is when I'm go to watch a kids film with my kids, not on my
Yeah.
own.
Yeah. But there's time, it depends on the certificate of the film you go and see. You go
Mm.
and see 15s, you're just gonna get a load of bloody, you know, phones going off and he's thinking, find a bus and go under it.
But getting back onto point,
Yep.
before you start on one of your population rants, I think nostalgia. Yeah, I get your point that the original source material has to be good,
Mm.
but that's a fan saying that, a fan of cinema saying that.
Mm.
Whereas the studio boss will go, well, that made good coin in the cinema when it was originally done. There's
Yeah.
still chatter online. You can get your marketing teams to do a scour of chat online, see
Mm.
how many posts are being made, from demographics 35 to 54 that are talking about
Yeah.
films. You can get that chatter, what's being shared, etc. So what we live in now is a world of data, and we can get enough of that to inform what is going to make coin at cinema.
Yeah.
So something like Beetlejuice, I think so, because we're prime audience that's been crying out for something to happen with Beetlejuice for a long time. It's
Crying out or
no, but I don't not crying out, but I think there's been enough. Oh, it'd be not quite nice to see a sequel of it. It's such a great film. But
yeah.
unfortunately, I think, and that script had taken quite a long time to get to the point where everyone agreed to do it.
What, Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
There was a script to it, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was Control C, Control V.
I Was there a script? Because I seriously, I desperately wanted to enjoy it. And it was nostalgic. I desperately wanted to be back into that moment when I watched the first one. That time of your life, what's going on with life. Sometimes you have fewer responsibilities or different stresses in your life, and you think, oh, if we could just go back to that for a couple of
Mm.
hours, that'd be really sweet. But it didn't do that.
No,
It stressed me out more.
I just left the cinema with the feeling of meh. I didn't look at my watch once, so the time went well.
Yeah.
But I felt shortchanged. I don't know what I was expecting, if I'm honest. I really didn't. But
Ah,
I
I,
don't think it was that.
I just think it's you've got nostalgia for movies, and then you've got nostalgia for characters and nostalgia for the actors. Michael
Mm,
Keaton's a prime example. He's brought back for Batgirl. Batgirl gets completed and then canned.
mm.
Yeah. He's brought back for The Flash. Ugh, awful film. And totally underused. It was stupid and killed off. You can't kill Batman, you pleb. You know, and even Beetlejuice, I don't think it did him enough service
Mm,
because he's a great actor. He's a very, very talented comedian and dramatic actor.
mm.
And all he was doing was saying the same lines he'd said 20 odd years earlier.
Yeah. It.
And I think that's the same across the board. So when you look at the You've got the nostalgia for the films, nostalgia for the character Indiana Jones, nostalgia for the actor Harrison Ford. But then you look at that actor and you think, shit, he's 40 years older now.
Mm.
It's not, there's no way we can get a story out of him at this age. But they tried and failed.
Yeah, I think he wasn't the best part of the film. I don't know what the best part of the film was. I don't think it was the best
The
part of the
score,
film. Yeah, it was
the
interesting
score.
because when it opened, I'd forgotten how great Danny Elfman's score to it is, and the whole opening. And I went to partner and I went, "You can see why I was asked to do The Simpsons, can't you? Because
Oh God.
it really is
Yeah,
just."
I really do like Danny Elfman. I saw him do Nightmare Before Christmas live.
Mm.
Was it last Christmas? Or Christmas before? Can't remember.
No, Last Christmas is when you gave me your heart.
But then the very next day, you threw it away. Thank you, George Michael. Rest in peace. I really do like Danny Elfman, but Danny Elfman, like Tim Burton, does not repeat himself.
Yes, but I think you had to for Beetlejuice. You couldn't deviate and go somewhere else with
Oh
it
no, no,
because
no. But the fact that you can take the music from Beetlejuice, you could put that over the titles to The Simpsons.
the whole opening of
You could
the
put it over to The
actually
Simpsons and you wouldn't notice.
the opening of Beetlejuice when it had the original title sequence type thing, and that they had the
Yeah,
whole camera swooping through, and you had that whole
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I that was the bit I sat back and went, oh, brilliant. Oh, I'm taken right back. And then it
yeah,
just went,
yeah.
then it
And then it just
just
died,
unraveled.
just died from there. But well, it is what it is. My concern is that studios looking at marketing, and you mentioned the marketing teams, and the marketing teams seem to be um the devil's candy in all of this data that says yes, do it.
Mm.
Um, Even though the last Indiana Jones film lost well over $100 million, they'll still keep doing it. And at some point, they're going to get to films that they shouldn't go near.
Yeah.
So you talk about data. If they were to look up Back to the Future,
Oh
that is
gosh,
the
yeah, yeah.
that is the film that ultimately everybody that's seen those first three would love to see a fourth.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, yeah. No, but when you go from a data point of view, you're talking
Yeah.
you're talking about mining people that talk about these things. You wouldn't go on a forum and say, I don't want to see a fourth, or I do want to see a fourth. But there are people that are, and these create these data points and they let
Mm.
the marketing teams find out. What if they go near that?
I, I, I,
See, but
I've
that's the
broken
problem.
myself because it
But
just no, that's hallowed ground. That is a trilogy that in itself didn't slightly work for two and three.
yeah,
That shouldn't be touched. And the only way they could really do it is if Doc Brown's kids come back on the train that the
yeah. But
time
but
train
isn't
that.
isn't the problem that they've exhausted all of their original IP? Excuse me. They're now exhausting their nostalgia IP. When they've exhausted the nostalgia IP, they're going to go for hallowed territory because that's all that's left. We'll have um, Beetlejuice 4, okay? Yeah, that's part of the nostalgia sequel IP. That's flogging a dead horse. We'll have that at some point, okay? But at some point, they're going to need a big tent item, a big item that says, come to the cinema. And Beetlejuice won't be it. Neither will Indiana Jones 6 or Dumb and Dumber 3 or any film that's had a big gap. That's not going to be the next tentpole event. They need a film which is going to be a tentpole event that gets the world talking, that gets cinema kicking up, because they're too scared to invest in original material now.
No, I think we'll just end up with Deadpool 16. I
No,
I seriously think the Marvel universe and Disney, well, which is part of it, but I think Disney are probably the biggest criminal in this, and they will suck the bone juice of any IP.
or marrow, as we call it in England.
That's
Yeah, yeah, not in Planet Dan. The bone juice. God, you make a crap giant. I'm gonna grind your bones and eat your bone juice.
Makes a nice soup.
Makes a nice soup. I'll put some bone juice. Do you mean marrow? No, bone juice.
Bone juice. But yeah, I think Disney's going to be the one that will kill nostalgia because Disney is sort of its model is nostalgia, and when you're watching cartoons, it's nostalgia for youth. It's a time when you, like you were saying earlier, to be transported back to something that was innocent, fun.
Yeah,
You had no
yeah,
worries, you had no cares, etc. And that's what Disney's own IP is. I mean, you look at huge fan of Only Murders in the Building,
yeah.
but that plays on nostalgia for the relationship of Steve Martin and Martin Short.
But that's a TV show, and TV shows are different.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Um,
TV shows are completely different in a way that they're structured, and thankfully, with something like that, you get a season every year. Yeah.
but
I just
what?
wonder if there was a Star Wars fan, a proper Star Wars fan, a geek, whatever you want to call them, who saw the original when they were 14, so chapter four or whatever it was, when they were 14, and how they feel about Disney trashing the IP and bringing out crap after crap after crap. Yeah, The Acolyte, that was supposed to be the best Star Wars story ever, got canned.
Mm,
You think to yourself, why are you making this? You're a streamer. What is it? Is it merch? I don't think so. You're not going to make $200 million on Acolyte merch, are you?
no, it's sign-ups, it's subscriptions.
I don't. Yeah, but I can't see a program like that. I can't see. I could see a TV show with all of the cast from episode 9 in it. So John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver. I could see a TV show driving people to it. But once you've diluted the IP, so you're going down, it's like Boba Fett.
Mm.
What? You're going down so far. But as you're going down, you're going so far away from the characters that drive people towards the IP. That what do you do? Do you get a couple of 100 people signing up to watch it? A couple of
Mm.
thousand? They're only going to cancel when they realize that you've cancelled the show afterwards.
I it's if they make R2D2 the series, that's going to be painful, isn't
Yeah. No, he's hosting a new version of Bullseye. It's going to be Rusty Ben, isn't he?
it? You've won a boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple of Jawas. Yeah. First up at hockey, we've got Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi, where are you coming from today, then, mate?
What's that? I've got there. Your name's Chewbacca. You're right there, Chewbacca.
Right, we've had to put you back a few steps because you're a bit of a tall lad, aren't you? You've got the reach of an orangutan, even though you're taller. So back to the double hockey for you, lad.
Someone get a brush. I think he's molting.
And somebody get a mop. I think he's had an accident.
You've won a Millennium Falcon.
But it's funny though that when you think about episodes 4, 5, and 6, which are, in my opinion, the only true Star Wars films, they kind of did this. Oh, that I think they predestined it because they did the Star Wars Christmas special, which was such a holy bag of poo that it diluted the IP, destroyed all the characters. Yeah. It's almost as if they said, we'll do this now. And then in 40 years' time, you look back at this program and go, it's actually not that bad compared to what we're being fed now.
This is Bleeding Edge.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I get nostalgia. I really do, because I think nostalgia is a part of your everyday life. You know, you measure, whether consciously or subconsciously, you measure how you're doing now against how you were doing.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
But if they come for the Back to the Futures, it I'm going Postal.
I think Back to the Future, Jaws. Um, I can't think of another franchise that they shouldn't go near because they pretty much have done everything now.
Yeah, I wanted to bring Zoolander 2 into the nostalgia thing
Oh
because
God, don't! What
that
an awful film.
that was unfortunate. That
Yeah,
really
I
unfortunate.
will give you a little bit of
Oh,
homework to do, and that's to look at the promotional shot for the Oasis concerts for next year, where you've got Noel Gallagher to the left as you're looking at it, and Liam Gallagher to the right. Um, and why is Liam Gallagher doing Blue Steel? He is doing Blue Steel.
right. So I'm just going to fetch this slight deviation. I've got to get this fly. Yes, I actually have a fly in my drink waiter. There we go.
What's it doing?
Having a swim.
Oh, you're supposed to say the backstroke.
Uh, right, I'll let him dry out.
Waiter, what's this fly doing in my soup? Looks like the backstroke, sir.
He nearly fell in my tea. You don't want to go in there. You'll be burnt and drowned. You foolish fly.
My God, you can spot the vegetarian trying to save the life of a fly, whereas the carnivore goes, "It's protein, mate. Don't worry about it."
It's all right. It's so hot in this room. They'll die overnight anyway from heat exhaustion.
Uh, so like I said, nostalgia is obviously something that's very powerful, which can drive creativity,
Mm.
um, but within a reasonable amount of time, I think is right. Yeah,
Yeah.
not 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. I think that's just a cash grab. Um, any other films that they can't touch? What do we think?
With the MC Hammer approach to films.
And
Yeah, Texas.
don't forget films that we fell in love with when we were younger are now 25 years old. I remember seeing Dirty Harry, the Clint Eastwood film.
Yeah.
Not when it was released, before somebody gets double cheeky, because that was 1971. I wasn't old enough. But I think I was 14 when I saw it for the first time. That film is 53 years old. Now, if they went near Dirty Harry, I'd have a paddy fit.
Going near Dirty Harry means something very different these days.
It does, doesn't it? They wouldn't be able to call it Dirty Harry, would they?
Oh.
Um, Not politically correct Harold. He ignores all of the Police Federation rules and guidelines, Harry.
Short Circuit is probably one because I loved that as a kid. And then they made Short Circuit 2, which was, meh, it's all right.
Johnny Five is alive. Now I'm thinking like classics, for me, it would be Dirty Harry, it would be Jaws, it would be Back to the Future. Um, if you can think of any others, pop a comment, drop us a line, tell us what you think.
Crossfire. They tried to
They,
reboot Italian Job.
they did. They've done the Ipcress File as a TV miniseries. Day of the Jackal was remade with Bruce Willis.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, Gabriel Byrne, and a very small appearance by Jack Black. Yeah, but it's actually been remade again for the TV.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jack Black, one that rumored to potentially happen,
Yeah,
School of Rock 2.
that's been rumored since the day School of
But
Rock 1 came out.
Yeah, but Jack Black has openly said he won't do it or revisit it unless there is a good script by the original. He wants the original team, and that's it.
That's not what Jack Black said. He said, "I won't do that film while there's a voiceover on a shit film to be done.
Very funny.
Give me some crap animation to put a voice to. That's my way."
Rig-a-go-go, rig-a-go-go.
He is a classic example, and maybe this is another episode. Actors that wasted their potential.
Yeah.
All he does now is he appears in dross He's in the what's that Minecraft
Minecraft
movie
film. Yeah.
with Jason Momoa. Oh, look, we need somebody to be in a film. Is Jason Momoa available? How many days filming is it? 5? Of course he
Wait.
is.
Oh, I just dropped.
You just dropped the fly.
I just dropped my pen.
You just why are you playing with a pen?
Because I've got itchy hands.
Itchy hands.
Mm.
You've got no control of the English language. That's what you've got.
If you got fleas, train them.
Oh my God, get down the circus, lad. Yeah, that's an episode. So episode upcoming is Tim Burton WTAF, and actors who wasted their potential. And then the other episode after that, the third episode, is actors who surprised us by being really good all of a sudden, who you've never considered to be an actor or gone, meh. And then all of a sudden they've gone, you know what? I've got this in my back pocket. Okay. Case in point,
Go on.
Hugh Grant,
Yeah.
The Gentleman. And from that point onwards, from The Gentleman onwards, he's got a new film coming out. God damn, I wish I could remember the name of it. It's a religion-based horror.
I think I know the one. I can't remember the name either.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm sorry, I can't not. That'd be disrespectful to Mr. Grant.
Sorry, Mr. Grant had a whole resurrection, quite frankly, for me, from Paddington 2.
Yeah,
He's
I know you're gonna
superb in
talk
it.
about Paddington all the frigging time, okay? But we're talking about proper grown-up films. Heretic it's called, and it's getting
Oh, that's it.
really good reviews. But absolutely since The Gentleman, dear God, he's shone. So that's an episode on actors that wasted their potential, and then actors that surprised us with potential that we never knew they had.
And if you have your own opinion, dear listener, please add it in the comments so we can discuss.
Yeah, and any films that they've made a equal to that you disagree with, or any films that you don't want them to make a equal to. So with that, I shall say au revoir and good night, and he shall say
I gotta go down and sit down and behave myself. Goodbye.
Oh my God. It's never an episode unless Michael Caine appears.
No, because you just got to bring the Michael out.